At the beginning of the film, we are under the water. The sun's rays penetrate the bottom with a strange glare, and the flow rustles the dark algae. There isn't much left to the surface. The flow brings everything to the shore. On the sandy beach lies the character wearing a life jacket. Jen spits out the water and tries to understand where she is. The girl gets out of the water and notices another person wearing the waistcoat nearby. Jen runs to the guy, shouting his name. When she turns Brad over, she sees that he is unconscious and has a shard of coral sticking out of his ribs. A crying Jen tries to call for help but hears no answers. The girl takes off her waistcoat and tries to pull Brad on the sand to help him. Finally, Jen manages to put the guy in a good place. Soon, Brad is coming around to the great joy of the girl. Nervously, Jen pulls the shard out of the wound and then covers the hole with a neckerchief. Brad inaudibly asks if the girl saw something. Jen doesn't answer and briefly leaves the guy to find him some water on the island. The character wanders through a thicket and sees a leaf filled with moisture. Not far away, Jen notices a coconut, which, judging by the sounds, contains liquid. She arms herself with a sharp stone and tries to make a hole in the fruit. At last, Jen succeeds, and trying not to spill the life-giving drink, she runs back to the beach. The girl leans on Brad to give him a drink, but realizes that the boy is already dead. Scared, Jen tries to catch her breath and recover. Resigned to the loss of her friend, she decides to explore the island. At first, Jen wanders along the beach, but not finding anything, decides to go deep into the woods. Soon the girl discovers a strange bag on a tree. Jen finds old pills in it and decides to inspect the surrounding ground. There she finds a matchbox, an old thermos, a book, and some children's things. However, they all look very old. On the coast near the car park, Jen sees a strange hollow tree from where a bird flies out. In the evening, the girl covers Brad with palm leaves. At night begins a strong thunder and downpour. Jen falls asleep covered with a large blanket she found. The next morning, the girl goes to the beach and sees that the storm has brought a lot of fish to the shore. While gathering living, Jen notices that one of the fish is covered with strange scars, as if it had been hit by a clawed paw. She returns to her camp and tries to prepare the fish while fighting nausea. Jen then brings her backpack and begins to unpack it. The girl finds her diary, but the entries in it have been washed away by the water. Jen also looks at a picture of her boyfriend included in the pages. Having calmed down, she goes back into the jungle, continuing to explore the island. Jen reaches a strange place covered with sand. On it, the girl discovers the likeness of crosses and stones with initials embossed on them. Jen guesses that this is where the family, whose things she has recently found, is buried. She returns to the shore and decides to bury Brad nearby. Jen digs a hole in the sand and puts the boy in it. Having covered Brad with a palm leaf, the character throws the sand back and sets up a likeness of a cross. At night, Jen builds a hut of blanket, not noticing the claw marks on it. On the beach, the girl makes a fire and roasts the fish she found in the morning. Waking up in the morning, Jen is walking along the beach when she suddenly notices something strange. The place where she buried Brad turns out to be excavated. The sand is covered in a red liquid, a trail of which leads to the water. Scared, Jen returns to her camp and sharpens a stick to turn it into a spear for protection. In the evening, the girl falls asleep sitting by the fire with the weapon. When Jen wakes up, she tries to understand what scared her, but realizes that it was just the noise of branches. The next morning, a girl goes to the beach and notices strange shadows swaying on the water. Jen decides to enter the water and swim towards what she sees. The girl discovers a suitcase on the surface, left over from a shipwreck. Jen decides to dive underwater to look for other useful things on the bottom. However, instead of this, she discovers a strange and frightening sinkhole. Jen swims away from it as soon as possible and tries to get out of the water. The girl with her suitcase swims to the shore. She discovers a change of clothes and shoes in it. In the evening, Jen is counting her remaining matches when suddenly she hears the sound of a helicopter flying by. Grabbing her signaling weapon, she runs to the shore and sends up a flare. However, the helicopter doesn't return. Frustrated, the girl observes the light sink to the water surface. Suddenly, Jen sees a terrible shadow emerging from the water. The frightened girl grabs her spear and runs deep into the island. Hiding by the roots, Jen tries to breathe as quietly as possible. An eerie monster goes next to her. In the morning, a frightened girl returns to her camp. Jen finds photos of the family who lived on the island before her. In one of the pictures, a girl sees creepy eyes burning in the dark. Jen realizes that only death waits for she of this island. She shakes things out of the suitcase and by putting life jackets into it, tries to build a small raft. However, this idea did not succeed. In the evening, Jen is again armed with a spear and lies down on a strange log she discovered on the first day. Night falls. Jen wakes up hearing a monster breathing next to her. The monster senses that its prey is somewhere nearby, so it turns over a log and digs up everything around it. Jen struggles to keep herself from screaming. Waking up in the morning, the girl goes to the beach. Jen catches a small fish in the shallow water and crushes it into mush. The girl then goes deeper and pours the resulting mush into the water, luring predatory fish. With the help of a spear, Jen manages to catch a big haul. At night, she sets bait for the monster. Jen hangs the caught fish on a branch and sits down in a dug and camouflaged hole nearby. She covers her eyes for a second, but when she opens them, she sees that the fish is gone. The next morning, Jen continues to perfect her spear when she suddenly sees a life jacket approaching the shore. In it, the girl finds half of Zach, another passenger on the shipwrecked ship. At night, Jen decides to use her friend as bait. The character manages to get a closer look at the monster. Suddenly, Jen hears a helicopter flying over the island. She is ready to come out of hiding and send up a flare, but at that moment, a monster appears next to her. Jen tries to breathe deeply and not betray her presence. A new day is coming. The girl realizes that the monster will not rest until it finds her. So Jen decides to find a new hiding place and builds herself a hammock between two tall palm trees. During the night, the girl wakes up to a strange noise. Jen sees the monster wandering along the shore, gradually approaching her hiding place. She lies down in the hammock, trying to make as little noise as possible. Suddenly, however, one of the mount that hold her up falls from the monster's hit. Jen's hammock flips over and she ends up on the ground next to her enemy. In a panic, the girl grabs the spear lying on the ground next to her. The monster's breathing is getting closer and closer. Jen manages to get to her feet and runs towards the beach. She keeps turning around to see how close the monster is to her. The monster follows Jen through the water and suddenly jumps out in front of her. The girl attacks the monster with her spear, but the creature throws her aside. Jen wakes up on the shore and realizes that the wounded monster has escaped. She reaches a safe place and falls asleep. In the morning, Jen examines her leg, which she injured during the fight. The girl is sitting on the shore when she suddenly notices a raft on the horizon. Her boyfriend Lucas and her friend Mia are on it. The girl hugs her beloved, unable to believe that he is still alive, and they are finally reunited. Jen feeds her friends lunch and says that after a little rest, they need to get off the island. The girl tells Lucas and Mia about the monster that has been attacking her for several nights in a row. As proof, Jen shows a photo with burning eyes as well as the tip of her spear with which she wounded the monster. The listeners treat the girl's story with skepticism. Lucas thinks they should stay on the island, hoping that someone will swim by and they can make a distress call. Mia, on the other hand, drops out of the conversation, upset over the news of what happened to Brad. Jen continues to insist that the monster will emerge from its cave at night. The character talks to Lucas in private and asks him to believe her. Jen takes a promise from the guy that he will talk to Mia and convince her to leave the island. After that, the girl goes fishing. Jen returns with enough catch for a week and offers to load it onto a raft. The girl suggests swimming west, as there are several helicopters flying there. But Lucas ambushes her by saying that they need to stay on the island to rest. Mia proposes to set up a big fire to attract the helicopters. The girl lets her friends go for a walk, while she secretly gathers supplies. Jen loads food onto the raft and tries to pull it to the water. Mia notices her maneuver and warns Lucas. The guy tries to stop the character and calm her down, but she breaks out and shouts that she will not stay on the island. Mia saves the situation by hitting Jen on the head with a paddle. The girl wakes up during the night and realizes that she is tied to a tree. Mia apologizes for this and says that it had to be done because Jen wasn't herself. The girl also says that it got dark hours ago and the monster never showed up. Mia sees Lucas and leaves the couple alone. The guy talks to the girl and is angry that she wants to leave him on the island. Lucas reminds Jen that she is always dissatisfied with her life and looking for reasons to run away from anywhere. But the girl assures him that this time the threat is real. Meanwhile, Mia is wandering along the beach. Lucas hears her scream and runs towards the water. The guy notices how the monster drags Mia under the water. The unleashed character rushes to Lucas. The next day, they prepare a raft and swim out on it into the ocean. Jen notices red spots on the raft and realizes that this is where her boyfriend attacked Zach. Suddenly, a monster attacks Lucas. The guy uses a flare weapon, but the monster drags Jen underwater. Lucas saves the girl, but he himself is dragged into the cave. Jen reaches the shore and writes a letter to warn of the danger to those who will arrive at the island. After that, the girl prepares many spears and also sets a fire trap. At night, Jen lures a monster into it and wounds it many times. The monster runs after the girl but loses its life in the trap. A tired Jen goes to the raft to get off the island and reach the humans. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie and see you in new videos.